Hello. Today I am joined by Janice. My name is Rizio Kangaizo. I'm a business support officer with Banya Family Placement. We are a recruitment agency. We are in a business of looking for foster carers to partner with us, and as we look after children who are in need. And today we have an interesting subject, really, that the whole country is talking about. We're only a few days away from schools reopening for year one reception as well as year six. Let me just ask Janice, are you at liberty to tell us what you do, work-wise?
I am a special needs teaching assistant at a mainstream school.
Yeah, so I guess you are actually also amongst those people who are going back as in terms of teachers, right?
Yes, I'll be back there on 1st of June.
Now, personally, how do you feel about going back now?
I do worry about the children going in because it's going to be a completely different setting, how they remember it when they left pre-COVID. It's going to be very basic. We're going to try and make it as welcoming as we can as adults and as staff members, but there's going to be a lot of rules in place to keep everybody safe.
Mm. And as it stands right now, I came across an article that gives me a bit of statistics. 150 councils were approached by BBC, and they released the article yesterday, 29th of May. They say 20 of them, of the 99 who responded, said they would be advising schools to open on the 1st of June, whereas 15 will not be giving that advice, and 68 will not guarantee schools opening for year one, year six, and reception. And I think it kind of gives us a picture of how divided we are in terms of the reopening of schools. Even so, when we look at parents are being given, they're being asked whether they are okay to send their children or not to send their school, the children to school. What do you think about that divide that is there in terms of the reopening of schools?
Well, personally, as an adult and as any other adult in the UK, you have that choice as an adult whether you want to let your child back into school. I think now there's more information out for parents to look at everything, look at what's best for their family, talk as a family, talk to the children. What would they like to do? They want to go back to school, because some children don't want to go back to school and are happy being at home, as others are desperate to go back to school. And parents have got to go back to work. Some are not privileged enough to be able to have that choice of staying at home, and looking after their children and having fun and spending time at home. They have to go back to work. They may be key workers. It may be that their setting now needs them back in.
Certainly so, yeah. So you can actually, even when we go into different households, you may come across, let me give you an example of a father. Maybe there are two parents. One saying it's okay for the kid to go to school. Children saying we want to go to school. Parents saying no, you can't. Some parents saying you need to go to school. Some kids saying we can. So you can actually see that the divide is there. In families you might have a situation where they're not even agreeing as to whether they should be going to school or not. It kind of reflects on. I guess it's inevitable that it's the situation, as you say, at the same time. But I want to come to I know that the announcement was made about 3-4 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think it was adequate time for schools to prepare, for parents to adjust, for children to prepare themselves, and also for communication to take place between parents and the schools, and also the schools and the teachers? Do you think that there was adequate time for that?
Well, me personally, no. I do know of schools around my area. They're all doing it completely different. Some schools have known for a little while that maybe there's a good possibility in June that the school would be opening, as other school settings had no idea. And for the last few days, have been rushing to try and get everything sorted, policies sorted, changed, everything within the school environment is going to change, and they're having to do that very quickly because they were waiting for that announcement to be official.
Yeah, I imagine so. So I think you mentioned something very interesting. I think you spoke about a lot of things changing, and you also say children are going to be shocked because things are not going to be as they were when they left. So I think we are going to go into the details of the change probably in terms of what has changed in particular. But before we get to that, I want to ask you. I'm trying to picture day number one. The 1st of June, whatever day some schools are opening. The first day, I'm trying to picture it in terms of how you're going to orientate the children to the new look, to the new adaptation that would have taken place.
Well,
what is there? Yeah.
Well, for me, it's going to change as soon as I get out of my vehicle into my school grounds. Then my normal day would have been going into the reception of my school and signing in so that they know that I'm in school. Now my day is not that. My day starts, I have to walk around the school to my classroom hub, and I go through an external door. When I go through that external door, I will be washing my hands. I can only limit myself to things that I can take in. So i.e. a lunch box and a water bottle. I will have nothing else on my possession. I will then wash my hands, and then I will go to my tables and I will be disinfecting the tables. That's the first job that I will be doing at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 1st of June. I will then carry on through the classroom of disinfecting absolutely everything within the classroom, and then I will be then waiting then for the children to come to my school hub door. And basically at the school gates, there will be 2 senior members of staff letting the year 6 children in first at 8:30. They will be coming in on their own. They're not allowed an adult with them at all. And it will be 15 minutes window of getting all those children in, showing them where or saying to them where their school classroom hub is, and they'll go to their door. Children will come to the door, they will wash their hands, they will go to their designated table and they will sit down, and then they will be told what's going to happen within the day. And the day will consist of, firstly, of having a remote register, and then that will be to make sure everybody's in there for fire reasons and for the lockdown that we have to have. And again, both the seniors, both the staff that's in that classroom will also be marked on that register, because within school we're not allowed to move around internally in the school at all. If there's a problem of anything in the classroom, I have to ring down to the main office, and the main office will give me advice. I'm not allowed at all. That's one of the rules for the staff, that nobody can be just mingling like school used to be. It is very much, you will come in, you will sit down. Some will have iPads, laptops to do their working. It'll be remote working in classroom. Other year groups, it will be photocopied work sat waiting for them, because again, the teacher is not allowed to reach over to that child and give anything to that child. So on the child's desk, they will have 3 reading books if they're in year 1. They will have 3 exercise books, a pencil, maybe some colouring pencils and a rubber, and that is all they will have on their table. They will be putting their lunchbox and their water bottle underneath their table, and then they will start the day.
Wow, that's going to be very, very, very different from how things were, because I know my children are no longer in primary school, but my memory goes back to how things were. is going to be completely different in terms of that. So tell me, what will be the size of a typical classroom? What will be the size now? Obviously, because you can't have so many of them. I imagine you're going to have the two. Is it 2 meters?
It's 2 meters apart, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
that's from,
how many?
Whole round of the table, because obviously, front ways, back ways, and sideways as well. It's got to be 2 meters apart, and then you've then got to leave a walkway between the tables, so that the children, if they need to go to the toilets, can come away from their table and walk down the aisle of the classroom. Again, it's got to be 2 meters, which is not possible. It's just not possible to have a little walkway. That it really is just 2 meters apart, the tables. The classrooms are not big enough.
Definitely, I can imagine so. So I mean, yeah, in terms of in some places, obviously, because you're talking of special needs, what was the number of like teachers in a class, including you call them support, those who support children? What would have been the typical number of support teachers and support teachers in a class? And would that change? But how would you make ensure that there is adequate support for the children who need extra support?
Well, that's one thing that schools are very, very worried about. They're worried about all these children. As adults and as human beings and as parents, we're all worried about the children, how they're going to cope with all of this. For special needs children, it's going to be very, very different, very, very difficult. And I know schools are trying their hardest to advise the parents and say that really, they are best home, really. They really are best home. It's for their safety and to keep other people safe as well.
Yeah. I mean, so do you think teachers are prepared for this?
No, not at all. Not at all. That everything is. So my school, I'm normally in year 5 and year 2. And the lady that I'm with, the teacher that I'm going to be with in my hub classroom, she's year 1. It's year 1 students. She's a year 5 teacher. She's had no experience with year 1 children at all. And what she is doing, the year 1 teacher that normally teaches these children is passing basically the work on to the year 5 teacher that's in my hub. And we've spoken about this. I have worked with year 1, and I know some of them that I'm going to be in the hub with, which will make life a lot easier for them. But for the year 5 teacher, she's just quite frightened, really. She's frightened for herself, because you can't keep little people sat in a seat all day. It's just not possible. Children are children.
Yeah, I can see that it's going to be very emotional. I want to be honest, because for people who, like you, who work with vulnerable children, it's not necessarily just because for the sake of it, but I think because it's to do with your attitude, your heart towards these young people, and the support, the level of support that they need. And it's unfortunate that probably you will be restricted in terms of the support, the level of support that you can give in that space. I mean, some of them, okay, can you give them a card? What are you going to do? You can't. What are you going to do when they need some sort of?
Yeah, and that's our worry. With me working with year 1, they're going to be frightened and really not know what they're coming into. All children are listening to the news. You might not think that they are listening, but they are listening. I know my little boy is listening and saying things, and we know it's come from the news. We've had the news on and he's heard it. So they've got their own little worries, these children. And what on earth are they thinking about now? They're thinking about getting ready for school on Monday. School uniform has still got to be worn. And they're going into a school thinking it's going to be exactly the same, and it really is not going to be the same at all. It's going to be a different routine. Yes, it will be staff there that might know, they might not know. But in some of the school hubs, there won't be. That they're going to be complete different teachers, which is what I've just said about my year 5 teacher. She has no idea about these children. She doesn't know anything about them, what makes them tick. And that's one good thing normally when you can mingle, you know, you can mingle around the school and you can talk to different children and get to know them and, you know, and see their personalities. As we're not going to be able to do that, you know, it's going to be learning on the job, if you like, from day one. We're all learning because it's never been done before. So
yeah, it's gonna be a challenge really, and we have to work together. So I'm trying to picture a situation where these children are restricted on their desk. Number one, the way they've come in and everything else, and some of them will look forward to a free time, break time, playground, and everything else. What are they going to come across when what's going to be the new playground, you know, set up?
So well, obviously we're going to have a break time. We've got, I think, 25 minutes for every school classroom hub, and it will be a designated area that has been taped off. I think it's going to be squares. So in my hub, I've got 8 children at the moment. It is going up. Every day it's been going up for the last week. We can only take 15 in each classroom, which is what the government have advised. But it will basically be a taped off area for that child to play in that taped off area. It'll be 2 meters apart outside. And that's where they will go at break times and basically play on their own. All the children will be playing in their little boxes. And the same as if...
Are you telling me that each child will have their own box and they'll play on their own or with other children?
No, they will be 2 meters apart, so it'll be in. They won't be allowed that out of that zone box.
So let's say they're playing with the ball and the ball rolls out. Is that going to be confusing? Who's going to take the ball? I mean, it's not in my box. It's not in your box. It's not in your box. I can see the confusion is going to be that's going to be there as to how to deal with this situation, this new look, and I'm also asking these young children, how are you going to ensure that they are, following the rules? Are you going to be following them around? What are you going to, can a child go to the toilet on their own?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we've said, as staff members, we're going by what the government guidelines are saying, and it is basically, you keep yourself 2 meters apart from an adult. There's no mingling and mixing with each other, and we're just going to have to enforce those rules.
But are you going to follow children to the toilet? So when they're gone, when a child is going to the toilet, you're going to have to follow them.
Absolutely. So if they want to go to the toilet, so basically the rules in my school hub classroom will be when they sit down, they will have to raise their hand if they want to ask a question or if they want to go to the toilet. If they want to go to the toilet, I will be walking behind them, taking a note if they've touched anything, let them go to the toilet. I will then walk them back, and where they have just been, I will be there disinfecting everything, basically spring cleaning that toilet or wherever they've walked or touched, and I will be doing that 8 times for one toilet stop.
Wow. Maybe let's zoom into the toilet. I was reading somewhere where they say some schools have removed the dryers. They have to use hand towel. Is that some situation with your?
Yes. Yeah, we've got hand towels. That's what it'll be. There's antibacterial soap in there. There's gel in the toilets that's on a pump. There's towels. And we only have one designated toilet for that school classroom hub. Nobody is allowed to go into that toilet apart from the children that are in that hub. And the same as the staff members, we've got a designated toilet where we both go to. And again, it will have to be cleaned. It's to stop people mixing. And if people have, do show signs of COVID, then, it minimizes the risk.
So I think you're touching on something I was going to get into. So in other words, there are hubs which will never meet or mingle at all. So it means that, so let's say a teacher has got symptoms. What does that mean for the whole school? Or a young, one of the students has got symptoms. What does that mean for the whole class? Or maybe it's being, you've discovered that a child is coming from a household where one of the members has got symptoms. What does that mean for that hub?
Yeah, so in the hub that I'm in, say I get unwell, because there's 2 members of staff for a reason. There's 2 members of staff. My school have basically said the idea for having 2 staff. So if somebody if there's an emergency, i.e. somebody, you know, gets unwell, if somebody does show signs of COVID, you know, a cough or the symptoms of temperature and whatever, you know, that other member of staff there is there to deal with that, you know, with that person that's unwell. And if it's suspected COVID, we have a special designated room which we would take the child or the adult to, because it's, you know, whoever it is in that hub that's unwell will go to the medical room that's a COVID room. The member of staff will put PPE on from head to foot, ring down to the office and say that somebody unwell, you know, suspect it could be COVID, and the staff member has to stand outside. There is an external door near our medical room. I will then wait until the parent comes, because the parent will be rang, come and collect their child, and the child will be basically escorted off the premises, as well as myself, to my car, and I will then have to go and have a test if their test comes back positive. If their test comes back positive, then the whole hub shuts down for 14 days and it's deep cleaned. Hence for taking all the displays down and stripping classrooms so that we can clean and disinfect it if we need to.
Well, that's, yeah. I'm not quite. I don't know what to make of that. You know what I mean? So obviously, so you tell me, if you're 2 staff, you know, 2 members of staff, you're not going to see any other person apart from the 2 of you. So which means that if there's, you know, you're tested and you got COVID, whatever it is, so it's safe just to isolate the whole hub, and we are assured that they never mingle with anyone else, right? And obviously the playground, they're different. Each hub has got its own playground. Okay, because these are some of the questions that, you know, I think parents have, and they're trying to get their you know, a mind into, you know, have a picture of how are things in there. And I think maybe you talking about this as we're doing right now, you know, gives insight or enlightens you know, parents as to what really is going to be happening in schools. Some parents may say, can I give my child lunch, you know, packed lunch? Can they do that?
Yes, they can give packed lunch. Again, you know, that has to be brought in first thing in the morning. It's a packed lunch and their water bottle. A question I am going to ask at my school, because obviously children drink a lot within the day. I need to find out if we've got a drinking water tap, and how I'm going to fill up the water bottles within my school classroom hub, because it's not an area that I normally work in normally, so I have no idea if there's a sink in there. So that's a question I'm going to have to ask, because obviously they're going to be drinking over the day. But yes, and so yeah, they can take the lunchbox and their water bottle. Any rubbish that's in that lunchbox, you know, wrappers or whatever, has got to be taken home. It can't be left in school. There is nothing from home apart from those 2 things that can be brought in, and themselves and the coat or sun hat. That is it. There'll be no toys, there's no pencils, no pencil cases, no key rings, no PE kit, no reading books, nothing. Everything has got to stay in school. It's school things, and home things are home things. We don't want any cross-contamination. Got to be, you know, put down to minimum risk of everything, really.
I'm going to come to you know, something to do with what I've heard about how students can like, is it a subject like art, you know, how they will be able to participate, or how they're gonna, you know, the use of electronic gadgets and everything else. I'm going to come to that, but I wanted to ask you, what happens if somebody violates the rules? Because obviously, I think I came across somewhere where it says parents cannot gather. As you say, some year 6 cannot come with anybody, but obviously year 1 will come with parents, but parents cannot gather and chit chat or the kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And what happens if either a member of staff, a student, or a parent violates the guidelines?
Within my school, we've got 3 written documents that have been sent to our parents, and one of them is behaviour of the children, and one is for the parents. And it strictly states that if the rules are broken in any shape or form, a child and the adult will not be allowed onto the school premises at all. You know, it's basically you do it once and then that's it. You know, you will not be attending the school during this lockdown period, or, you know, re-entering again on the June the 1st. And they will have to sign that. The children will have to sign that because it's to keep everybody safe.
Look, yeah, very interesting. I mean, before I used to be called to school to discuss either my child's behavior or their education or anything like that. How would that happen? How do you facilitate parents accessing the school? Do they have to make appointments? Can they just walk and just? How do you do it? Is it virtually? Is it everything over the phone?
Yes, it will be over the phone and emails. That's what it probably would be, because obviously they want to minimise, you know, contact with other people.
Well, yeah, that's a new normal that really no one can really get accustomed to unless it was. But we're in this together. So I mean, in terms of parents who might have many questions, and where can they find information, parents, about what the school is expecting, or what information can they ask from the school in terms of being informed and enlightened on the expectations and the guidelines, where to go, where to find help, how to deal with certain situations. Where can parents find information? What information is available to them?
Well, parents, on the government website, there is a section on there about education and what is expected of schools and what they should be doing within their school. But also the school should be sending some information. You know, the remote learning will still be carrying on for the parents that decide their children not to be in school.
Okay, I see. So, coming to, why are you not going back? You said you're not going back on the first, you're going back on Thursday, and you got a little one. Is he going back to school? Is he in school?
He has been in school setting over the whole of the COVID, because obviously, you know, I've been into work to look after the key worker children, which has been completely differently run to how it is going to be on the 1st. It has been a little bit more relaxed over the lockdown period for key worker children, as you know, on the 1st it's going to be completely different. But yes, on the 1st I was expecting to be going to work as normal, taking my child to his school for a different routine. And yesterday I had an email saying that the school would not be opening until Thursday, that a parent had tested positive for COVID and without any symptoms, hadn't realised she'd got them, but is actually working in a hospital. So the children are currently waiting for the results to come back, but the school has decided to close the school until Thursday. And if the children do come back positive, then the school will be closed for 14 days for a deep clean, and then school will reopen again.
So the whole school is shut, not the hub. Is the whole school?
The whole school. He decided to shut the whole school.
So this is a different school from where you yourself work. I mean, is it, where your son goes?
That's right. I did speak to my head teacher last night. I did, relay the worries that I've got, because obviously the knock-on effect for me not going in on the 1st of June is that, again, if there's not 2 members of staff on my school hub, and my school hub cannot run. The knock-on effect of my little one not going to school, I then cannot go to work unless I've got my partner to look after the little one. And like I say, the knock-on effect is I cannot go to work, and my hub won't run because there's got to be 2 members of staff for safety.
So your hub is not opening until you go back on Thursday?
Well, I've managed that my husband is going to look after my little one, but if
Oh,
it
I see.
doesn't work out on the first, if it doesn't work out when he's at home with him on the first, because again he's trying to work from home as well,
Mm.
then on the second I will not be going in, and then the hub will have to close.
Wow, that's very interesting. How do you feel about that? I mean, because it's not going to happen once. It's going to happen, not necessarily with you, but with other people. That I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. This is a conversation, I had with my husband last night and with the head of my school. We've had a few cases, and it's been parents and the children have come back negative, like lots of people have, around the UK and around the world. And the schools have continued to carry on. For me, I've spent the whole week of last week getting my child ready to go to school on Monday, making sure he's got the appropriate lunch boxes and water bottles, and make sure his shoes fit him, and getting him ready mentally, ready for going back to a different normality, that it's going to be for him. And now all of a sudden it's not going to happen.
no,
It's
it's
going to
not.
be later, or it could be in the next 2 weeks, and then after the 2 weeks there may be another person that gets symptoms and they have to shut the school again for another 2 weeks. It could be that he's never back at school for a while if that keeps happening. But I was a bit disappointed, and I do think the head teacher has jumped the gun a little bit without knowing what the results were of the children, because the government guidelines do say, yes, if the parent has, tested positive, then the children had to stay at home for 14 days and isolate. But until she knows exactly what is actually going on within that family and the results, I didn't think she could make a decision yet.
Hmm. So, in other words, I mean, I can see from your situation that you are in, obviously from as for the school that you work for, it's only the particular hub. I mean, that is, isolated, not the whole school. Whereas this school where your child goes, they have actually shut down the whole school, which means to anyone listening to this recording, it simply means that different schools will have different ways of implementing this, isn't it, or dealing with every situation. Meaning what we are saying here is not conclusive, but some of the things are going to be similar, but some things are going to be different. I mean, I don't know if you heard about this. I mean, have you heard about what other countries are doing, like the use of museums, stadiums, and different building sites, which they're now converting into educational, like classrooms and everything. Have you heard about that? And what do you think the UK can actually adapt that as well?
Yes,
Adopt that approach?
I have seen some things, reports about other countries and how they've handled COVID and getting children back into school, or keeping children in school during their pandemic and things like that. And yes, it might, personal opinion would be, if you've got a big room with children in, it would be very impersonal. You wouldn't be able to keep the child on task. Then the financial, it would cost quite a lot of money to rent somewhere like that. Yes, you would have the space, but it would mean a different area for the child to have to go to. They'd have to travel. That's more stress on the children.
I can imagine so, and also trying to adapt the site into an institution or a facility that can really be able to meet the expectations in terms of education and everything else. But yeah, I've heard that. I mean, but as you rightly say, that there's cost involved with that. Did you look into any other country that you kind of think they're doing good in terms of the implementation of the return to education?
Yeah, it does seem like that everywhere is doing something completely different.
Mm.
And I'm not quite sure why, because surely as a whole big wide world, you would have thought people, different countries would have spoken to different countries about what they've experienced, so that, that they can help each other. And it seems not. It seems that everybody seems to be doing their own thing for their country.
Yeah, you're right, because I hear other countries saying 1 meter, some are saying 2 meters, I mean, they you know. Oh, maybe. Do you think at some point people will be required to put on masks? You know, in schools, children, no.
Well, you know, in my school, we can wear a mask if we feel it's our personal choice. It isn't wrote into the regulations from the government. You know, they're saying
Even
that you don't need
students.
masks. Yeah, students or adults. You know, staff members. But the head teacher has said you know, within the policies that if we would like to wear one, you know, we're more than welcome to do that. And I do know that members of staff have got PPE. They've got shields. I've also got a shield that somebody's given me. You know, they bought it for me while she was buying hers. But again, you know, it'd be very frightening for a child to see an adult with PPE on.
Yeah, it's gonna be, you know, very, very, very different. I think I can't wrap around my mind on to try and have this imagination of how it's going to look, but we can only wait and see what comes out of it. But I mean, I think we can all agree that it has to start somewhere. We can't wait, you know, and until when will be the right time? Who is going to decide when the right time is? I mean, because our decisions are influenced by different things. It's the same information, but we are making different decisions from the same information, either to send our children to school or not to, whether we feel it's safe to or not to. So obviously, it has to start somewhere, and we kind of have to work together. But in you know, what would be your advice, your personal advice, not necessarily from any, you know, any kind of view, but just as a personal advice? You're a parent, you got a child going to school. What would you say to that parent who is hesitant? What would you say to that parent who is okay to send their school? What would you say to parents in general?
You know, that's their choice. They do what they want, you know, with, you know, whatever discussions they've had within their household and their child. You know, every child is different, every adult's different, we all have different opinions. You know, you do what you think is right for you and for your children and your family. You know, you're not going to be penalised if you don't send your children into school. If you're happy doing homeschooling, then, you know, you carry on doing homeschooling. You know, some parents it's not working out for at all, and these children are not getting educated at all, you know, and haven't been from probably week 2. You know, it's your personal decision. You know, nobody at the moment is making your child go to school. You know, I've made the decision that my child is going to go into school. If it doesn't work out with him or he's too distressed, he will stay at home. You know, that's a decision that we've made within our family. You know, I've told my employer, I've told her, you know, this is my situation. I have a young child. You know, it's a lot for us all to be dealing with, and to try and get your head around and to sort out and, you know, get back to some sort of normality, a different sort of normality. You know, and everybody's got to be understanding. You know, it's changing all the time. Everything's changing all the time. We're all learning every day. You know, the first week back, everybody's going to be learning something. You know, something will work, something won't work. You know, we'll adapt it to how we can adapt it.
Mm.
You know, the staff are human after all. You know, they are parents. You know they are caring people and want to be back in work, but their own personal circumstances, you know, sometimes makes them that they can't. You know, they can't get back into work for whatever reason, health or whatever. We're all just going to have to work together. You know, we're all in this together, aren't we? So
Yeah, we are. But you know, I don't know. You know, this is my view that there are some parents who are just probably fearful. It's not that really they. You know, how can you help someone to take the first step of making decisions or a decision? For example, is your child getting education at home? If not, what can you do? Or, you know, but is a child's behavior, you know, can you manage it at home? Do you think they need to be in a different setting? You know, what are the some generic or universal things that pointers that parents can look at, you know, for them to arrive at a decision to or not to? Like, for example, in your case,
yeah, I mean, you know, in my case as a parent, you know, my little boy's a special needs boy. you know, has struggled with the change from day one. You know, as much experience as I've got, you know, homeschooling him has just been a complete nightmare at times. You know, it's just completely broke down. You know, and I've been able to speak to his school and say to his school, this is just not working out. You know, what are we going to do with him? You know, you really want him to be doing education, or are we going to be doing life skills and different things for him? And that's what we decided between us. You know, the head teacher, his teaching assistant that he works with, and myself and my husband. You know, we made that decision between us. Other parents are making other decisions. You know, you've got to think about whether it's safe for you to get into school. Are you going to be able to get into school? You know, because not all public transport's working, or, you know, where you live. You know, do you need to go back to work? Yes, some people do, because financially they can't do any other. You know, is your child ready? You know, is it enough time yet for your child to go? You know, are they going to need a little bit more longer time to get their head around this? You know, all these sort of things that you do think about yourself. So, you know, it's a big thing to think about, a big decision. And whether you're doing the right thing, because you might well be doing the whole completely wrong thing, sending them in. You know, it depends on that child and that school, really. You know, schools are doing completely different things.
So in other words, you're saying that your head teacher was available, the schools are available, so parents really should feel free to call their school and have a discussion, have a conversation, discuss the situation, and you know, still at the end of the day, it's their decision to make, but at least it's an informed decision. They've spoken to the school. It's not in isolation. It's not only via email or whatever it is, but if a conversation has to be had, they should have a conversation with the school. And also look, I think you mentioned something, a lot of things here, whether they have to use public transport, either to go to school, whichever way. There's a lot of things that really need to be looked into here. I mean, very, very interesting, really. I wonder how it's going to be like. Would you be able then probably to come back maybe after 2 weeks or so to come for us to kind of look at, discuss how things would have gone with you in particular, you know, to see how the new normal looks like and how children are coping, how parents are coping, and everything else. In any closing statement, any closing words that you want to say?
Well, I do. You know, at the end of the day, you just do what you feel is right for you and your family. You know, the schools are there to help. You know, they've always been on emails. You know, the teachers have. I know, you know, my child's school is always there. And I know a member of my staff, you know, she does Zoom calls with her special needs student. She's been doing that for the last week so that she can get him ready, come back into school. But yeah, no, you do what is right for you. And get the information. You know, if you feel it's not right with all the information that you've gathered through the news, you know, what we're saying as well here, you know, don't send them in.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Janice, for joining me, and to those who have managed to watch this interview. I found it very informative, and I believe you did. And as I said, Janice is going to come back again, and we're going to go through this, see how things are, how things are out there. Most importantly, please make sure your decision is informed. Speak to as many people as you can, other parents, you know, speak to schools, do some research, see what other schools are doing and everything else. And, you know, hopefully this video, you know, recording, you found it resourceful and informative and useful and helpful also in your decision making, in the process of arriving at a decision, and we'll see how it goes. And to all the parents who have made a decision to send their children, we wish you all the best. Be there to support them. To all those who haven't decided yet, you know, take your time, you know, until you're safe, you know, you feel safe to do so. It's okay, but at the same time, make sure you do your best to ensure that your children, you know, receiving education at home and everything else. If you're struggling, please don't struggle on your own. Seek help. Speak to anyone, speak to the authorities. They will be able to assist you. And thanks once again, Janice. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.